I'm out of shots. Mag empty. What's up, Nerfers? It's hard to believe that it's already been 2 years since I first tested the Hairtech Diana, which at the time that it came out was the most advanced brushless flywheel pistol ever made. It was an absolute game changer for the Nerf hobby, 100 millisecond response times with high power in a tiny little package. That video got 176,000 views, which tells you just how popular the Diana was. Hairtech have just done it again. This time with a primary class SMG style blaster they're calling the Vesper. And to quote 007 talking about his Vesper Martini, once you've given it a taste, that's all you want to drink. This delicious blaster was sent to me thanks to Phantom Toys here in Australia, but it will be available worldwide. For example, Out of Darts over in the USA will be selling this as well. Check out the links down below. I recommend getting it locally so it doesn't get shaken or stirred during shipping. In today's video, I'll go through the big pros of this blaster, couple of cons and how to solve them. I'm even going to do a before and after comparison of Gavin Fuzzy's B-car. It's really easy to install that, by the way. Out of Darts have a 3-minute video showing you how to do it, so I won't waste your time today. What I will do though is I'm going to start the video off with a quick manual of arms of how to use the Vesper. I've also now moved undercover because it is bucketing down with rain out there now. Probably saw it in the video just before. Now to start off with, at the back there's a button to release the stock. If you really want to, you can pull it so far out that it's actually too long even for my arms. But it does give you space to remove the battery cover, which is at the top there. Plug in the included 4S LiPo battery. Can you hear that nice little beeping tune as it turns on? Carefully put the cover back on without pinching any of your wires. You shouldn't have to force this, they should fit in there nicely. Next, insert a magazine of half-length darts and flick it from safe into semi or full auto, and you simply pull the trigger. Those brushless flywheels spin up to full power in 100 milliseconds and send up to 15 darts per second downrange at 180 feet per second. An absolutely oppressive combination of power and rate of fire. Now the first major feature of the Vesper, and what I'd say sets it apart from every other injection molded flywheel blaster out there, is the fact that you can program all of that with the smart display. Using a 3-position control switch, forward, back, or click in, you can adjust velocity, you can change rate of fire. You can change your burst mode into either 2-round burst, 3, 4, or 5-round burst. And you can also adjust some more advanced parameters if you're up for it. But the biggest feature of the smart display is the fact that you don't even actually need to have one to benefit from it. In my testing, I set a program to 2-round burst, unplugged the battery, unplugged the smart display, removed it entirely, came back 24 hours later for all of the gameplay footage, and it was still remembering my 2-round burst. So you could easily just borrow a mate's display, program your Vesper how you want it, and then hand it back to your mate after. Now the smart display as well features a Picatinny rail on top, which today I've mounted an RMS red dot sight on there. For all of the gameplay, I didn't have the smart display on there at all. Instead I had a regular red dot mounted straight onto the Picatinny rails of the blaster. But it's good to know that if you do use a smart display, you can still have a sight on there. It's not going to sit too high up if you choose a pistol sight. The Vesper is incredibly compact, measuring only 45 centimeters or 17.5 inches with the stock fully collapsed. For those of you who've played as Odd Job before would know, sometimes smaller is better. As I mentioned before, you can extend the stock pretty damn far. It also comes all the way out if you don't want it. Now what I found was that at full extension, the stock was actually a little bit too long for my arms. It was pretty uncomfortable to hold the blaster like that. So I put it in just 1 extra notch, and that was nice and compact for me to get around on the field in close quarters battles. So with that, I'm happy to say the Vesper can adapt to any size of user. It also has some decent weight to it, feels very sturdy, nice solid plastic construction. The grip is adult sized. Overall, I'm very impressed with the feel and the build quality of the thing. Full ambi, bro. The Vesper is designed to be fully functional from both sides of the blaster. So whether you swap hands when you're pieing corners, there's going to be a fire select on both sides to go from semi, auto, safe, as well as a mag release lever on both sides there as well. Pay attention as well, it gravity drops those mags effortlessly. I am told it can take the original Diana mags, but they don't gravity drop as clean as these ones do. Response time. Much like the Diana that came before it, it's got motor idle, or what HairTech call hyper mode. To enable it, you push in the bolt release on the left side. You'll hear a slight little motor whirring there. Completely inaudible outside, especially with the rain going on. You probably can't even hear that if I hold it up to the microphone. It is such a quiet little whirring going on in there. But what it does is it skips half of the spin up time of the motors so that it gives you that 100 millisecond response time that it's known for. To turn it off, push in the bolt release from the right hand side instead, or flick it into safe to save some power. It'll turn itself off temporarily. Speaking of power, the Vesper uses a very powerful 4S LiPo battery. I'll put the specs down the bottom of the screen now for you. But with that battery, the Vesper is so power efficient that it lasted an entire day of gameplay without breaking a sweat. Start of the day, plugged it in. End of the day, unplugged it, and the battery hadn't even come close to getting low. All of those features, the smart display, the compact size, the high power level, the ambient controls, the lightning fast response times, and the amazing power efficiency are what make the Vesper unique and an absolute joy to use. But like anything, it does have some downsides, which I'll go through now. The Vesper lacks an auto cutoff when the battery gets low. It does have a green LED on top, which stays solid when it's good to go, starts blinking when the battery is getting low. I can see that being very easy to miss because it's below your sight line there. People will keep using the blaster and they'll brick their battery. As part of my testing to figure out whether this did have a power cutoff, I had the smart display on, I had the motors idling, and I had a LiPo alarm plugged in. From a full charge with all of those things going on, it took 16 hours to actually drain the battery to 3.4 volt to cell, at which point my LiPo alarm went off like a smoke detector and I came and unplugged the battery in time. That being said, a LiPo alarm is a very easy solution to add a safety mechanism to your battery on this thing. Out of Dart sells them for $3.50. They also sell a replacement battery cover so you can fit the LiPo alarm inside with the battery as well. And with how loud one of those is, it's a very simple and very elegant solution to tell when your battery is getting low. Thermal safety. The Vesper lacks any way to auto cut itself off when it gets too hot as well. At the front here on the side, it does have a heat reactive strip which turns red when it starts to get hot. Gives you a visual indicator that it's probably time to start cutting down on your rate of fire there. Because they only sent me one magazine, I was completely unable to even get this thing lukewarm. No matter how hard I tried, whether I did semi-auto or full auto, quickly reloaded the mag and did it again, I couldn't get this thing to even change color. And I don't think in normal use anyone else will either. However, if you like to strap 60 magazines to yourself and blow your load in under 2 minutes, maybe pay attention to that heat reactive strip on the side there and make sure it's not turning red. The flywheels. There have been a couple of cases reported online of the Vesper's flywheels breaking due to a combination of them being polycarb material. They used the incorrect Loctite on some earlier units and just a bit of bad luck for the users. HairTech and their distributors like Phantom Toys in Australia, Out of Darts in the USA, they all keep spare parts on hand and they're very quick to send them out if something did happen. So in the incredibly rare case that a flywheel does break in this thing, contact where you got it from, they'll send out a spare part and you can have it up and running again in no time. Finally, we have the one negative that actually affects me, and that is the proprietary magazines. The Vesper uses its own magazine standard which it shares with the Diana. Although they have redesigned the magazines to hold 16 shots now, plus it has an awesome drum spring in there, similar to ZWQ magazines. It would have been far more convenient if they just used the Worker Talon spec magazine. For all of the gameplay footage, I only had one magazine of 16 shots, so some of my sprees were cut shorter than they could have been because I ran out of ammo. Oh, I'm all out of darts now, so even though you didn't kill me, I have to go back to respawn anyway. If I used Worker Talons, well, I got heaps of those. This is not a mag and grip blaster. There's no real need for a skinny mag. The other downside is it can't fit longer darts like some of the Adventure Force or even Saber darts, which are too long. That being said, I do still plan to use Saber darts in the testing. I'll just have to use it on semi-auto only to give them time to feed up through the magazine because the tips are going to rub on the inside of the plastic there, give it a bit of friction, making the feeding a little bit slower. Overall, I think all of the negatives can be worked around and they are outweighed greatly by the massive positives of the Vesper, such as the smart display, ambi controls, the quick response time, and the amazing power efficiency. With that said, let's get to some testing. In my chrono testing of the stock config, 1 gram nitro shot bamboos shot a high of 207. They also had a low of 168 and an average of 194, although they did have a standard deviation of 13. I was expecting a 180 feet per second blaster, but this shoots a lot hotter than that at 207. If you need to though, you can of course dial the FPS down as much as you need. Stepping up to heavier darts, 1.3 gram saber darts averaged 172 feet per second with an amazing standard deviation of 1.7. I suspect the bamboo rings of the nitro shots affected their consistency a bit, and standard darts like saber here will get more consistent numbers like this. With Gavin Fuzzy's B car attached, 1 gram nitro shots lost 25 feet per second on average, down to 169. That's more than I thought it would be, but it is a given that they would lose FPS since it's putting spin on the darts. Consistency remained just as bad at 13, again because of those bamboo ridges, I imagine. Saber darts, being 30% heavier, managed to maintain their velocity far better through the rifling, only losing 8 feet per second, putting them down to 164 average. They didn't score an amazing 1.7 standard deviation this time, they actually increased to 7, but we'll have to see what actually happens in the accuracy test. Okay guys, 30 meter accuracy test, or 100 feet. That target is 1 meter in diameter. I'll tell you the grouping sizes at the end. Now, instead of a sandbag, because this is a flywheel blaster, it does semi-auto, I can actually just put it in a vise and it won't move its position at all. I've already zeroed it in, so let's get started. This is the stock config. We don't have the B-car rifling in. That's a hit. That's a miss to the left. That's a hit. That's a hit. That's a hit. Low right. High left. High left. High right. Far right. Same with that. Same with that. Miss to the right. And far miss to the right. Okay, bit of a large spread without any rifling in there. I'm going to cut the cameras for a minute, chuck Gavin Fuzzy's in there, see how it does afterwards. Okay guys, I've got Gavin Fuzzy's B car in there now. And I just want you to admire the massive heat sink on top of that. That is what is stopping it from overheating, even when we do semi-auto, which puts a lot more strain and heat onto the blaster. Left of center. Right of center. Pretty close to center. Right. Bang on center, I think that was a bullseye. Same with that. Bit to the right. Same with that. Little low right. Missed to the right. That's a hit. More to the right. All right, I think this is definitely an improvement over not having it. I'd say the grouping size is probably halved. We're not getting any missing to the left. They're all kind of going to the right or to the center. Let's take it inside and see how it actually did. From a distance of 30 meters or 100 feet, the stock config Vesper shot a 123 centimeter or 4 foot spread, while the same darts with Gavin Fuzzy's B car shot a 73 centimeter or 2.4 foot spread. That's not far off being half the size like I guessed it would be out in the field. With a human torso being about 40 centimeters wide, my suggestion to players out there would be to use the 2-round burst mode. That'll guarantee at least one of the darts hits the enemy player if you're shooting from this far away. The thing is though, the Vesper is really made for close quarters. So oftentimes, in fact probably most of the time, you'll be much closer than I was for the accuracy test. With 15 rounds per second on full auto and 200 FPS velocities, this blaster is borderline overpowered when it comes to up close and personal. And if 200 FPS is too much for you, you can easily dial that down with a smart display, which only one person at your event even needs to own one, since the blaster can remember your settings. My one complaint with the Vesper is the magazines. I could only use longer saber darts on semi-auto, and even then, sometimes I had to jiggle the mag to make them feed. Because of this, for all of the gameplay, I used rumbling darts instead, even though they aren't as accurate as saber darts. You got me too.
Did I?
I felt it, so...
I definitely did.
You could try applying some dry lubricant spray into the magazines. Another thing I did actually try was removing the 2 raised plastic guides from each side of the mag follower, and that actually did improve feeding, since dirt would often accumulate in those tracks. Overall, I had a lot of fun using the Vesper. I'm not usually a flywheel guy, you guys know this, but this one was an absolute blast. Check it out at Phantom Toys here in Australia, or Out of Darts in the USA. That's all I have for you guys today. Like, comment, subscribe, and all of that. Here's 2 other videos you might enjoy. And as always, thank you very much for watching. See ya.